Welcome to the Photography Opinion Podcast. We discuss all things photo, video, and camera related. I'm Ben Lucas.
And I'm Stuart Marlantis.
And this is Photo Op. So, Stuart, there's this meme that's been going around a few times. I thought we'd bring it up and talk about it. It's the guy who says, yeah, a company was asking for 6 years in fast API computer programming, and I couldn't apply for that job because it's only been 1.5 years since I invented fast API. So maybe stop measuring years of experience as how talented or good you are at a certain thing. And I think this applies to photography phenomenally.
Yes.
So let's talk about it.
So first off, HR, please put slightly more effort in your job listings. That'd be appreciated.
Oh, yeah. There was definitely one time I applied for a job that said you must have 3 years experience in, what was I want to say it was called Flash Builder. It was the Adobe version. It wasn't Dreamweaver. It was specifically like Flash, and you made Flash animated websites with like stages.
Was it Fireworks?
No.
Weird.
No, I think it was called Flash Builder, and it was specifically so you could build a small, easy to use website. And it was funny because when I went in for the job interview, I actually said, hey, by chance, did you design your website in Adobe Flash Builder? And they're like, that's super weird. Yes, we did. And I said, did you use 38 stages? And they're like, that is super weird. And he went back and looked. He's like, yes, we did. Cool. I think you get this job, but you don't have 3 years experience. I'm like, I know, because it's only a year old.
Yeah.
I have 1 year experience because that's how old the program is.
Yeah, this is a kind of a consequence, unfortunately, with I think a lot of sort of the STEM world is where things, obviously there's some examples of something where literally it didn't exist before. These are a little silly, but this is not uncommon in the wider industry. I feel like the STEM industry has really, because a lot of things in the industry are very STEM industry, that's so silly because STEM is so many things, but it's very easy to measure STEM skills in general. It's very easy to put a number of years on it. Tools tend to be well known and be around for certain periods of time. And so you see this kind of bleeding into other industries where they're like, well, Google does it, so why can't we do it that way? Why can't we just list a number of years of experience?
I mean, I have another perfect correlation. I want my lawyer to have a college degree. I want my doctor and my surgeon to have a college degree. The person who you hired to do your portrait, like, do they know what they're doing? Like, that's kind of all I care about. I don't care that he, got a biochem major and is, not going to kill me with giving me the wrong medication. You're taking my picture, dude. Like, can you do it or not?
And that's not to say that it's less valuable than those things, but there is a different level of experience. Is a little bit more ephemeral in the arts than it is in a lot of technical fields. Although
here's a fun one. Anyone who says that they are an accredited or certified photographer is lying. There is no such thing. Actually, no, there is one. You can be an accredited certified photographer, but all that is PPA, Professional Photographers Association. You just pay them money, and now you're certified. That's it.
There's so much of that stuff that goes around. There are so many business organizations. Like, all you need to do is pay the money, and they'll give you whatever rating or certification or whatever that you want. Yeah, totally worthless.
So in this completely nebulous, subjective thing that is art, how do you measure experience?
Well, in my opinion, experience is perhaps the wrong measure almost. Like that's why reels and galleries and examples of work in the creative field, portfolios, exactly, are so much more important. Like if you've been doing this for if you've been doing your thing for a year, let's say you're a sculptor, and you've been only sculpting for a year, but you have an incredible body of work, and I want to hire you to put up some statue in a city, and you've got all these amazing sculptures, and it's exactly what we're looking for. As somebody who's been weirdly involved in some city planning-esque things, strangely enough, I could speak
you have the weirdest resume
with some level of experience and say it doesn't matter. Like you're what we're looking for. You're good. You've only been doing it for a year, but who cares? You're exactly what we're looking for. Whereas there might be somebody who's been doing something for 30 years, for an entire career, and your work just either doesn't fit what we're looking for, or frankly, it's not very good. You've just been doing it for a long time. And I'm sure we can all think of some artist, whether they're a filmmaker, a photographer, painter, sculptor, I'm sure we can think of somebody where we're like, why is this person successful? Why have they been doing this for this long? Like their work sucks. Like, right? There's tons of those examples out there.
Every 60 or 70-year-old photographer at the wedding shows I go to, who still has a booth, they're not good. Yeah. They've been doing this forever, and they're not good.
And this is notorious in the fine art world, especially painting. And I fall into the same trap where like it's one of those I like what I like things, right? Where I look at a painter's work and I'll be like, that's trash, but some people will love it. And pay insane amounts of money for it. I'm like, why would you ever pay this much for how like poor and uninspired this work is? But in my opinion, I mean, that's just my opinion. Like, I don't like that art, and I think it's not good, and lots of people love it, and ultimately good for the artists that they were able to make a living and potentially make many livings over in aggregate with their paintings. So
I mean, those guys whose work I say is terrible, like they make more money than I do. It sucks, it's rough, but they do.
Yeah.
I mean, they probably shoot 10 times as many weddings because they cost nothing. But
yeah, some of the fine art, like if you ever Google, this is a fun yet depressing activity. If you ever Google fine art photography, and you Google specifically like the most expensive photographs or prints ever sold, there are some incredibly insane numbers on photos that frankly are not good. Or at least,
very true.
At least in my opinion, they are not good. I'm like, really? There's nothing in this image. Like one of the I can't even remember the name of one of them that I have offhand. That's just like, it's just like a river and like a little bit of grass on either side and like a blank sky behind it. And it sold for like some insane amount, like $40 million or something. And it turns out that it's slightly notable and that it's an early form of Photoshop where they clone stamped out some power lines or something. But anyway, it sold for an incredible amount of money, and you could shoot that in almost any location in the world with a phone nowadays, or even back then with very modest equipment. I'm like, how did this sell for this amount of money? This is one of the least inspired photographs that I've ever seen. But for the person that took it, like I said, I wish I could remember the name offhand. Like, that's the thing, it's so not notable that I don't even remember the name of the photograph or the art of the photographer that did it.
I mean,
for them, great. Like, you made $40 million on it. Like, awesome. I really respect the hustle, but the artistry of it, I'm like, eh. But I'm not some great artist either, so I really shouldn't be.
I mean,
judging.
it kind of reminds me of like any Instagram feed where it's just really garbage, slightly blurry, kind of like iPhone or even like old vintage film cameras that are objectively not good compared to any camera today. But like, there's a naked woman in it, and therefore it's fine art, and it's fabulous. And I was like, that's not, like, you can make that artful, but that wasn't it. This is just like, why?
Yeah. So to get back to the point a little bit, experience in the arts and specifically photography, I think is not the best measure. Like, it's all about the quality of your work, and you might be somebody who's coming coming to photography with an incredible eye, a really unique perspective, and an interesting style. And whether you've been doing it for, 3 years or 30 years, in my opinion, it doesn't matter, because your work is notable and desirable for all the reasons that it's good, all the reasons that you as that photographer are notable. So yeah, it's all about the portfolio to me. Like, look at a portfolio. If your portfolio is awesome, I frankly don't care how long you've been doing it. The only question that I would have with that is, which this should be, I feel like, visible in a good portfolio, is if their portfolio is really small but really solid and they haven't been doing it for very long, I might question that they're consistent enough to pull this off. Like, we've talked about this before with what makes you professional is like being consistently good. So if it's a small portfolio but really great, I would be, and they haven't been doing it for very long, I would be a little bit concerned that they're not consistent enough yet. But that's it. That's my only real worry.
If you're a student just coming out of school and you have 0 years experience, I would much rather see a portfolio of 10 amazing blow your mind images than 30 where 10 of them are good and the rest of them are because that tells me you're not very consistent. And part of being a good photographer and part of cultivating that skill is knowing what's good and what's not. So if you show a portfolio where some of them are amazing and some of them are not, then that tells me that you are able to take a good photo, but you're not able to discern what is a good photo, which kind of is a dead giveaway of kind of where you are experience-wise. And any art director already knows how to peg that better than I do. Something else that I would say about it is quality within a genre. So there's also this thing of like, oh, you're a photographer with 10 years experience. Well, can you do X? No, I've never done that before. Like, I know as much about it as you do. The only thing I know is the camera. For example, I'm really, really good at weddings and portraits and products. I'm really, really bad at cars and sports. Just like, I've tried. I'm not great.
Yeah, it's certainly that like consistency within their domain of expertise is huge. If you're somebody that would be another thing that I would question, is if your portfolio is 10 photos and each of those photos is a different genre, I would be
You don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to shoot anything yet.
Slightly concerned. Even if they're all good, I'd be like, well, I don't know. Like, if I asked them, if I was hiring them to shoot a car meet and they have one photo in their portfolio of 10 images that's a car and it's great, I'd still be like, well, I don't know. Like, they bounce around a lot. Maybe they aren't the best for this. They have one great image, but they could have shot 1,000 terrible images and just kind of gotten lucky that one time.
I've told this story before. My very first photo shoot, I got incredibly lucky with one image that turned out phenomenal, and I didn't know how to recreate it for years. Yeah. I just happened to take one that was phenomenal, and I didn't know enough about photography to be able to take ones that were better than that.
Now, I would say that there is one exception to this, and I would be a hypocrite if I didn't mention this, because my career generally exists because I like to task switch infinitely and like to be approximately good at many things instead of great at one thing. If I'm hiring for like an in-house person that is going to make media and needs to make a whole bunch of different types, if you're that kind of person that likes to do that and your portfolio is a bunch of different genres and they're all good, they still need to be good. But that would be the point where I would say, this is cool. Like, I'm fine with a broad amount of experience, even if none of them are particularly exceptional, because I'm hiring for
you
that.
Must be this tall to ride. There might be someone who's better at you at this one thing, but you're pretty good at all the things.
But generally photographers aren't hired for that. Like, I am strange in that that's why I've been hired a bunch of times. But I just need to throw that out there for my fellow generalists. That does occasionally happen, and just make sure that your portfolio is consistently good, even if it's not amazing compared to the person that just specializes in each individual genre that you're talking about.
I've been hired somewhere because I was good at both video and graphic design. But if someone's looking for a wedding photographer, they're gonna find a wedding photographer, not a guy who shot one wedding.
100%,
if someone's
100%.
looking for a corporate, photographer, they're gonna find someone who's good at doing corporate events. So this is not to say that you can't do everything, but definitely know your genre and be familiar with it.
For sure.
I like to say that I have a fashion flair, but if anyone ever asked me to shoot fashion, the answer is no, I'm not good at it. I don't understand fashion. Fashion is very, very specific. You can take a fabulous portrait of a person that is an amazing editorial and beautiful, but a real fashion art director would look at my work and say, this is not fashion. So, I mean, it is nitpicky, but it is something to understand and be aware of. There are some photographers that I've worked with who have been phenomenal. I worked under David, who shoots basically cars, food, and products, and he's amazing, and he's been doing it for 40 years. But then I'm better at shooting portraits than he is, because he doesn't like shooting people. And I had been doing it for 3 or 4 years at that point. So all of that to say, years of experience, do they matter? Yeah, kinda. You need to know what you're doing, but also they don't matter. Unless you're like me and you've been doing it for 10 years, and then that is the thing that puts you above everyone else.
Yep. Yeah, anybody who's been doing it for 10 years plus, all of a sudden the years don't matter, right?
They don't. They really don't.
But yeah, they don't matter. They don't matter except when they do.
Except when they do. Yeah, at that point, just stop telling people how long you've been doing it for. Just 10 plus. You're
done.
You're good.
You're done.
Experienced.
But hopefully this emboldens you a little bit. If you don't have a lot of experience, don't let that hold you back. If your work is good, that's all that ultimately matters in the creative field. And if somebody's too focused on the number of years of experience, that might mean that that's not a job that you should really pursue.
If you have questions or ideas for future episodes, you can email us at hello@photo-op.show.
Watch us on Ben's YouTube channel at NomCreative.
As in Om Nom Nom.
Share this with a friend, and you can listen to Photo Op anywhere podcasts are sold.
Or download it. 'Cause it's free.